Ninth class biology.
I hope you are safe at home. It is a very pleasure to see you again. Today, I would like to start the lesson where we have stopped last time. Our first lesson name is Cell, its structure and functions. Already in the last class, we discussed about cell wall and the plasma membrane. In the last class, we discussed about that. The next important cell organelle is, one of the main important cell organelle is nucleus. Next important cell organelle is nucleus. First of all, nucleus was observed by Robert Brown. Robert Brown observed the nucleus in the year 1831. 1831, Robert Brown observed the nucleus for the first time. If you observe the nucleus under the compound microscope, whereas in plant cell or animal cell, it is appeared a black color spot or black color dot in the cell. First of all, if the nucleus entire structure was revealed under the electron microscope. With the help of the electron microscope only, the structure of the nucleus we can see perfectly. First of all, observe nucleus. Children, see, this is a plant cell and this is an animal cell. In plant cell, the nucleus is present near the boundary line of the plasma membrane. Whereas in animal cell, it is present in the center of the cell. That means, in plant cell, it is present nearer the boundary line or the nearer the behind the plasma membrane. And whereas in animal cell, it is present, the nucleus is present at the center of the cell. Nucleus is also called as cells control room. Why it is called as cells control room means it regulates and controls the activities of the cells. That means it regulates and controls all the activities of the cells. So that only it is considered as the cells control room. For example, if you take one example, in our body, which is our which organ controls you? That means brain. Brain controls all your functions in our body, isn't it? Like that, here, nucleus also controls all the cells and regulates its activities inside the cell. So that only nucleus is considered as the cells control room. Next, nucleus, here Schleiden is one of the botanists. Botanist means who deals with or who studies with the plants, detailed structure of the plants. He is called as the botanist. Schleiden is one of the botanists who proposed the cell theory. He thought nucleus is responsible for the origin of the new cells. That means new cells are originated from the nucleus. That new cells are created from the nucleus. So the process is said to be cytoblast. Here cytoblast means the nucleus which is responsible for the creator of the new cell. So that only he thought that new cells are originated from the nucleus. Let us nucleus. Nucleus is surrounded by a membrane called nuclear membrane. Nucleus is surrounded by a membrane called nuclear membrane. The outer membrane is called, outer side of the nucleus is called outer membrane, and the inner side of the membrane is called inner membrane. The fluid which is present inside the nucleus is called nucleoplasm, and the thread-like structure which is present inside the nucleus is called chromatin fibers or genetic material. It is nothing but a DNA. DNA or the genetic materials means hereditary characters which are obtained from our father and mother. Like that, here the genetic material is present inside the nucleus. These are the parts included in the nucleus. First of all, the outer membrane which is present outside of the nucleus are called outer membrane. The inner side of the membrane is called inner nuclear membrane, and the fluid which is present inside the nucleus is called nucleoplasm, and a thread-like structure which is present inside the nucleus is called chromatin or genetic material. This is about the detailed structure of the nucleus. Based on the presence and absence of nucleus, organisms are divided into two types. They are prokaryotic organisms and eukaryotic organisms. Based on the presence and absence of nucleus, organisms are divided into two types. They are prokaryotic organisms and eukaryotic organisms. Pro means old or before. That means carrion means nucleus. That means prokaryotic organisms are organisms without a distinct nucleus. Here distinct means particular. The organisms without the nucleus are said to be, without particular nucleus are said to be prokaryotic organisms. Whereas the organisms eukaryotic, eu means new or true. That means the organisms which are present with the true nucleus are called as eukaryotic organisms. Prokaryotic organisms without a distinct nucleus. That means here the genetic material is present in these organisms, the thread-like structure present in these prokaryotic organisms, whereas the nucleus and the nucleoplasm and the nuclear membrane and outer nuclear membrane and inner nuclear membrane, nucleoplasm, all these parts are absent in this prokaryotic organism. Whereas in eukaryotic organism, all these parts are included in eukaryotic organisms. That means the nuclear membrane, outer nuclear membrane, inner nuclear membrane, nucleoplasm and chromatin fibers, all these parts are present in the eukaryotic organisms, whereas it is absent in the prokaryotic organisms. Based on this, organisms are divided into. Let us see some more differentiations between prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms. Prokaryotic organisms are the oldest organisms, small in size and simple in structure. It is lack of nucleus. That means nucleus is not present in this prokaryotic organism. Particular organelles are absent in this prokaryotic organism. These are single-celled organisms. Examples of prokaryotic organisms are bacteria, archaea are the most examples. Most unicellular organisms are examples for prokaryotic organisms. Whereas coming to eukaryotic organism is the new organism with a particular nucleus, with a distinct nucleus, very complex in structure and with a perfect nucleus, and all the organelles are present in the eukaryotic organisms. Single cell to multicellular organisms are included in the eukaryotic organisms. Examples: humans, plants and animals are the examples of eukaryotic organisms. Red blood cells in some mammals and phloem seaweed tube in plants are the examples of cells that do not have nucleus. That means these do not have the nucleus, isn't it? Next, based on this, the organisms are divided into two parts. They are prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms. Next important cell organelle is cytoplasm. So, cytoplasm is the fluid which is present inside the cell. Whether in plant cell and animal cell, in both cells have the cytoplasm which is present inside the fluid-like substance present inside the plant cells and animal cells. Coming to the cytoplasm, what is the main role of cytoplasm? What is the use of cytoplasm? Means cytoplasm is a fluid substance. That means jelly fluid substance which is present inside the cells. It is helpful for the freely floating of the organelles. That means it is helpful for the freely floating of the. Next important cell organelle inside the organelle is fluid which is present inside the cell. That one is called as cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is present inside the cell. Cyto means cell, plasm means liquid, which is enclosed by a cell membrane called plasma membrane or cell membrane. The fluid which is enclosed by a membrane is called cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is helpful for the movement of the organelles to freely move inside the cells. Next important one is cytoplasm. The fluid which is present inside the cell, that means the jelly-like substances which is present inside the cell is cytoplasm. Here cyto means cell, Plasm means liquid. The cytoplasm is a liquid which is present inside the cell and which is enclosed by a cell membrane. Cell membrane or plasma membrane. The entire cytoplasm is covered or bounded by a membrane called cytoplasm. Cytoplasm helps the organelles to move freely inside the cells. Children, let me ask some questions. What is the other name of nucleus? Yes, cells control room. Why it is called as cells control room? Because it controls all the activities of the cells. Like a brain controls our functions in our body, like that nucleus also controls all the functions in the cell. Controls and regulates all the functions in the cell. Next one is nucleus. Who identified the nucleus? Yes, Robert Brown. In which year? 1831. Children, in the next class, I will discuss about remaining organelles.